Hi, so today I want to talk about bias in artificial intelligence systems, or neural networks rather. So now we are at this fascinating stage where we create, in a way, like miniature brains, and they have all these parameters, millions, billions, and now even trillions of parameters that have just kind of have a certain value in relationship to all of the other parameters. So it's a really oversimplified brain in a way, but in a different kind of way, it mimics quite perfectly some simpler structures in our brain. There is this thousand brain theory, which basically says that so we model the world. So that is a huge part of intelligence, is modeling the world, and modeling the world is required for planning in the world. So you need to have some picture in the world, and you need to understand how things in this picture work and how you can work in this picture. So we have about 100,000 of these huge columns in our brains, which all have different kind of parameters for recognizing different things in the world and for helping us to create models in the world. So we can create these models artificially, but and they can be highly specialized for different things, as we have seen from speech recognition to image recognition and image generation, and the same with speech. So one of the things is that as these systems, for example, Lambda or GPT-3 or the Google Pathways model, they just go through tremendous amounts of human-generated data. So Wikipedia entries, books, libraries, histories, and some chosen speech on the internet as well. And then one danger and one concern that they have is about hate speech and inequality and stuff like that. So for example, one of the biases in DALI 2, this amazing image generation system, DALI 2, when you, for example, put in the prompt of generate some pictures of a lawyer for me, and most of the pictures that you get are just white old men being lawyers. And when you search for, when you put the prompt of create, what do they call them? Airline hostesses, flight attendants, make pictures of flight attendants, then you get pictures of female Asian flight attendants. And so the idea is that people, of course, are concerned in inherent biases in these systems. So, not all lawyers are white old men, and not all flight attendants are, Asian women. Like, of course not. Of course, that is not true. But so going there and artificially trying to change that. So, you must at least have 40 or 50% females as well as lawyers. Now, this is where we get to the issue. That will make the model delusional. For example, if I think about the world and if I think about wealth inequality, for example, what I picture is greedy old white men sitting in offices. Why? Not because of some stupid bias, I'm sure some biases as well, but because that is currently mostly the objective truth, that wealth inequality and the heads of massive corporations are old, greedy, rich white men. There are no two ways about it. Currently, our world is fucked up, and we are in this teenage era of humanity where we're still figuring our stuff out, and there's so much inequality, so much irrationality that we still need to deal with. But that is the world that we have right now. Now, if someone would go into my brain and put some kind of rule in there that says that when I picture wealth inequality and CEOs, then I need to get at least 50% old female greedy people, white old or old black greedy white women. No, old black greedy women. Yes, so that's a requirement, that 50% needs to be that. Now, if I had that rule implanted in my brain, I would be delusional. I would become effectively delusional in trying to figure out the world, trying to, sort of look past the illusions and the facades and the games that human beings are playing, to look past that. I would be completely delusional, because then no longer the world makes sense. Because, if CEOs could be of any color and equally distributed amongst men and women and stuff like that, we would live in a completely different world. So if I somehow had that picture, I would be delusional. And so I think I read someone talking about this as well, and I think this is something we need to think about. We can't artificially force the system to change these biases. We can do it in some really specific instances where there's only really narrow application. For example, DALL-E 2, if it's only image generation, I can imagine how it's fair that, there's some things may be tweaked, for some uses. And I'm sure if you asked for flight attendants and you make it, instead of 10 pictures, make 1,000 pictures, I'm sure you would see different color skin and, all that stuff too. But currently, if you're talking about any real artificial intelligence system, no, it would be a really bad idea to remove those biases, because those biases are us. In a lot of these conversations with these language models, many inherent biases in human beings emerge. Being human-centric, being like subtly racist in some way, being hostile, being, what do they call it? Against women. Men against women. But as messed up as it is, this is all a part of human psychology. We can and we should be better, and individually we can be better, but as a humanity, we can't blame these large language models, from learning what we teach them. And I think an important thing that people don't think about is that these biases can be really nuanced, and in fact most of the times are really nuanced and are sort of unconscious on a level that is almost imperceptible to normal human beings. If you had some really smart AI and gave it a random book, that AI could select from this book all of the biases of this author that are just, unprovable, unreasonable or whatever, but they are in there. And I think that is in every single book humans have ever written, or any piece of media. There is inherent bias in there that we are either so used to and accustomed to that we don't even mind, or they're so subtle and nuanced that we sort of take them for granted as if they didn't exist. But we have to accept that these nuances and biases exist everywhere. It is impossible to teach these self-learning systems without, endowing on them also our faults and mistakes. I wish there was a way, maybe there is a way, for these AIs to only learn the best from us. But currently it seems to be the same way as we teach our children. Even if we don't want to, unconsciously, we still carry on those biases that we have deep inside us without us even knowing. And then people, their children get older and then they wonder, wow, why is my child also like that? If their entire life they consciously try to, avoid giving on some specific bias or whatever, unconsciously it also goes through them. So I think that's a really important thing. I think, of course, there are ways to enhance these models and make them better and faster, more useful. And artificial intelligence safety certainly is an important thing. But if you have an intelligent machine and we expect it to understand and model the world and find solutions to problems, for that to happen effectively, it needs to have these biases in it. But just some few thoughts. It is now insane world we're living in. Almost every day when I wake up and I check news about science and technology, there is a new mind-blowing breakthrough, like recently the Minecraft breakthrough by OpenAI. What I want to say, basically also important and fascinating to me, is this, for example, DALL-E 2, this massive image model. So you have, let's say, like a trillion parameters, right? These spots with different values. So you have millions of pictures over here, and you just feed these pictures to this system. So kind of through like a funnel and the scale and layers of things, it just goes through the system. And after this system is trained, these parameters, after they are trained on these pictures and data, none of these pictures exist anymore. So people think that, like, when you ask DALL-E to make me a picture of a cow on the moon, then they think that DALL-E will just somehow take a picture of the moon and a picture of a cow and sort of Photoshop them together. No. I at some point used to think that as well. No, that is not what is happening. What is happening is all of the original images are gone, and the only thing left are the values held in this neural network. So it is scattered around at certain values, and it just comprehensively has some knowledge, has some picture and idea of what a cow is, what the moon is, how do objects usually look when they're in front of something or standing on something, how does the moon usually look like, so that is, I think, an interesting thing. So it's crazy where we are at right now. It will not take long. This is definitely exponential progress in the field of AI, and what I love is that this research is open. So there's a lot of communication going on, more than I would have expected. Some team making an enormous breakthrough and releasing that paper for other researchers to take use of. So few years, it seems like it. So very soon our entire human civilization will be transformed profoundly, and nothing will ever be the same, and it's incomprehensible to us because it literally is incomprehensible. The fourth industrial revolution, automation and artificial intelligence, the way that these technologies that are currently growing up very rapidly, the way these technologies will change our world is unimaginable to us, but it will happen, and is beginning to happen faster and faster and faster. And we will see the effects and how it will feel like, in this coming decade, in this next coming few years as well. And it's coming faster than any normal person would expect. So sometimes I feel kind of isolated and crazy, thinking about these things, like, what the fuck? Like, within a few years, or a decade or a few decades, we might have an intelligent being on our planet that is smarter than any human being, and this shit is not on the news being talked about like every week at least. That blows my mind. We as human beings, we are so funny, and we are so silly, and we are so two-sided, and it's so fascinating to me to look at the worst of humanity, as for example the war that's going on right now, the atrocities, the human suffering and misery for millions of people that we cause for each other for no good reasons, just for stupidity. And then at the other side of us collaborating globally, hundreds of different countries working together on some scientific project, and the best and the brightest of us, the things that we can do when we put our thoughts and resources together is just beautiful, including this artificial intelligence research. And I think, currently I think that is the most likely way how we can be saved. I mean, it is. Even if not AGI, it will be even narrow intelligence systems will make all the difference in our world, but the AGI too. So these are just some of my thoughts on this. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments, and of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.